Welcome back to Faith and Frames. We've got a guest, but we're not going to introduce him yet because we've made mistakes there.
I would hate to have to holler at him.
Yeah, certainly don't want to tell him to shut up.
Ooh.
Oh, dang.
Can we censor that?
Him. We've already got part of the cat out of the bag.
Good grief.
All right, I'm going to hit you something.
Okay, hit me.
This is, you're going to have to respond. This is a...
Oh, it's a...
Yeah. So
it's not just rhetorical.
No.
Okay.
What's the difference between Jesus and pizza?
Dang, this one's deep. Or I feel like it's deep. What's the difference between Jesus and pizza?
Yeah.
I honestly have no clue. That's so far from each other on the spectrum. Maybe not. I mean, Jesus obviously inspired somebody to make pizza, which I'm very thankful for.
Right.
Hit me with the real answer, though.
Jesus can't be topped. I mean...
I don't want to get on the pizza discussion because there are crazy, psychotic people out there that think certain things belong on pizza.
Pineapple being one of them.
I'm honestly not even talking about that. There's just some weird things that go on pizza. I'm fine with pineapple at times.
What?
At times. I have to be in a super duper pineapple mood.
Pineapple is a cold fruit. It does not belong on a hot dish.
It's cold until you bake it at 450 degrees with a wood-fired kiln oven, brother.
No, that's not what we're about here on Faith and Frames.
Oh, okay.
Another thing that I want to talk about, I guess I owe probably my whole family an apology.
Ooh.
Speaking of transparency and apologies, it's something we like to do
We
here.
have a criminal record over the past 4 weeks on this
This
podcast.
isn't a criminal record. This is more so just like
Okay.
I overstepped, and so last night I was troubleshooting a toilet. Mm-hmm. It was moving a little slow.
Ouch.
Don't know the exact cause, but you're automatically thinking obstructions, whatever. Mm-hmm. Start with the plunger.
No bueno.
No love. No love. So it's like, okay, we still got this slow trickle on the exodus of this porcelain bowl. I then go downstairs in the basement just to make sure that it's not physically leaking out of the pipe. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out the extent of this leak here.
You got to free up the flow.
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure this out. I then go to another stage of the house where I know is past this. So, like, I'm at the end of this line. I'm going down line just to make sure, like, okay, if this one flows well, then I know the obstruction is between here and there. Just
Correct.
Logical troubleshooting.
Very good thinking, Mr. Plumber.
What I'm doing here, well, the frustration comes that I think maybe most husbands and dads probably can relate to. It's like, I'm just trying to troubleshoot this thing, and I've got my wife asking, well, what are you doing now? Well, what are you doing now? What are you going downstairs for? Da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, okay, first off, I get real frazzled when I'm troubleshooting things.
Well, you're in the zone.
And
at that point
like,
in time, you were in the poo zone.
I immediately, in the poo zone, I immediately get shorter, and like I just get quiet because I zone in.
Right.
And then secondarily, it's like, okay, but what if I told you what I was even doing? Would it make any sense to you?
Would you understand the process?
Would you understand it? Would you, I mean, are you just trying to make conversation right now, and I'm just not in a conversation mood? Like, so it's like I was probably a little more hostile than I needed to be. Mm-hmm. And so I would like to issue an apology. But again, I'm sitting here
To
thinking,
your wife?
I'm like, yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out the direction of this apology. Okay.
Okay, if I told you why I'm walking downstairs to look, to make sure that the wax ring's not been breached and it's just flowing out the bottom, would that make any sense to you?
Plot
Are
twist.
you any the wiser after me verbalizing what I'm doing?
Plot twist. She's a master certified plumber, had the solution in her noggin already, and you were just delaying her process, sir.
It's possible.
Just saying.
We'll never know. It's just a little nitpicky thing that I think probably most dads and husbands probably can relate to at some point.
Just trying to increase the velocity of the wheeze and the poos
Yeah.
through your septic system.
Again, I told Kara after the fact, I was like, look, I'm not saying this is related. I'm just a guy who looks at the facts and the timeline here. Mm-hmm. Not saying there's correlation. Maybe it can be drawn. Maybe it can't. Facts are our daughter has now started to totally solo potty herself. Mm-hmm. And before we realized that she was not very good at judging the number of squares of toilet paper.
Whoa, she's just
necessary.
dialing it in. Just dialing it in.
Just dialing it in. Sure, that's a way of saying it.
You're going to make mistakes.
Also, she always used far too many squares.
Sometimes I do the
So
same.
it's like, look,
You
all
just
I'm
never know.
saying is on the timeline, we've got Reese who's now learning to potty herself.
Mm-hmm.
She's now doing probably way too many squares. Actually, we've seen her do way too many squares. And now we have a plumbing issue in the toilet that she frequently uses. Maybe there's a correlation there. Maybe there's not. Maybe we should keep a better eye and maybe ration her squares a little bit.
I'm going to defend Reese a little bit because I don't think there's ever been a standardized system for the number of squares. So I think it's very subjective and based per individual. I'm just saying it could be until I see a standardized methodology across the board.
True.
And also standardized methodology with toilet paper. Big toilet paper is going on a rampage right now because you have some bags at the Sam's Club that say this has 463,000 sheets per roll. You have another one that says this one has 36 million sheets per roll. I don't know what the actual system is. I'm just guessing.
Yeah, true.
And aside from that, how many do I use?
Well,
There's no standardized system. Big toilet paper, big TP they've got us all.
there is a limit in which case your plumbing can hold, though. That limit is finite. And
That's pretty standard. So I think big
don't-
TP needs to line up with those.
if you don't keep an eye on that, you will far exceed your
Correct.
your bandwidth there.
Again, no standardized system, though. It's pretty subjective at this point in time.
One thing that is
Your
standardized.
daughter's just trying to dial it in.
Speaking of toilet paper, the way that it flows,
Mm-hmm.
the way that it comes off the roll. Have you seen the patent? There's a patent on this. So like,
Oh,
it,
yeah.
It
Over
flows,
top or under.
Yeah, it does not flow back towards the wall to where you beat
No.
the far out of your knuckles every time you
No,
need to
that
get a
makes no
sheet.
sense.
It's not how it works.
That makes no
It
sense.
drives me nuts. It goes away. It falls away from the wall
Yeah.
toward you, or however you want to look at it. Certainly a way to go. That there is a right or wrong there.
There is. I mean, that
die
would be
on
like
that hill.
turning your sink faucet towards the wall just so your wall can get splattered with water.
Yeah, what makes sense there?
Zero cents there, sir.
At the end of the day, we're all animals, and we're just trying to make it.
Just trying to
make
keep
it
our
work.
bums clean.
Speaking of animals,
That was a good segue.
hey, I thought about that.
That was a
Right?
very good
I was
segue.
sitting here thinking, like Harry Mack style. I'm sitting here
Very
thinking,
good
okay, I've got
segue.
got this going on. Speaking of animals, we're going to thank our sponsor. After that, we'll introduce our guest, and we're going to talk about all things creative and some of that process, why we create, little nuances there.
I think I might like that. Before that, though, we'd like to thank the sponsor for today's episode. Episode 12 of Faith in Frames is sponsored by Animals West. At Animals West, your pets are our passion. Our dedicated team offers personalized care, advanced treatments, and a warm, loving environment. Because at Animals West, every tale tells a story. Visit Animals West today. Tony, Amanda, and the crew down on the Newport Highway.
Yeah.
Thank you for sponsoring this episode of Faith in Frames. Thanks for being good pals. Thanks for taking care of us here on Faith in Frames. Jared,
you.
meat and taters.
Yeah.
Get us the meat and taters this morning. We have a guest.
We have a
very
guest.
creative guest. Handsome, creative guest.
He is a dapper looking fella for sure.
Probably biggest biceps in the game.
Well, that's partly because of the trade that he's found himself in.
Could be the nature of the game.
Could be the nature of the game. So we have a movie star. First off,
TV personality.
TV personality.
Goes by many names.
Many names. We've shot some content with him. He has graciously stood in as actor many a times on productions for us. None other than the Franklin Forge.
What?
Brandon
Hi,
Kyle
guys.
Franklin.
Brandon.
Mr. Forged in Desire.
Forge and Desire, the one, the only. Yeah.
I love it.
If I known you were going to mention my biceps, I would have just, I still could just like rip
I mean,
my-
you could flex and you could go through that button up pretty
True.
quick.
I'm really holding back right now.
By the way, our guests.
That's all you got to do.
Our guests the past couple of weeks have just been killing us on the fashion game. Like you come in a beautiful olive button-up jacket. Look at the wrist. Can I get a Shador to the camera real
What are we
quick?
doing?
Just
What are we doing?
Shador
Oh, yeah,
Sanders
yeah.
show us the rolly there. Is that a rolly?
No, this is a Omega Speedmaster.
Oh my gosh, even better.
It is better than a Rolex.
Even better.
Ooh, shots fired.
Very classic. Hey, the Speedmaster is a staple in the watch game.
Okay.
Very classy,
It
very
is-
good taste.
It is a very, very good watch. It is,
Does it keep you in time?
yes, it keeps time
That's all
very
you can
well.
ask for.
Yeah, no, it's completely broken. I just love the look of it.
It keeps it on 2 o'clock.
It's the first watch on the moon. So
Eh,
The one that we absolutely went to the moon.
it was the first watch in the moon studio.
Nice. There we go. That's a little more accurate. We
Very
can get
good.
behind that
Very
here on
good.
Faith and Frames. So no, Brandon, you now find yourself as are you a master? I don't want to misspeak.
No,
Okay.
I'm
Well,
not a
you're a
master.
bladesmith,
Yes.
and you spend your days pounding out iron or not iron.
Steel.
Steel.
You spend your days in the forge making beautiful
Austenitic steel.
austenitic steel. I don't know what that is. If it exists, that sounds cool.
Holy terminology, Batman.
Yeah.
So I would like, because I've known you since college. We went to ETSU together. Spent a fair amount of time in the computer science field,
Yep.
learning, getting some knowledge.
Yep.
Actually, I think we both professionally worked in it for a while.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
What got you into? The audience knows what got me into cameras, but what got you into knife making?
So I've been a maker pretty much my entire life, whether I knew it or not. But
What do you consider a maker? When you say maker, what's that mean to the audience?
so a maker is somebody that makes anything, whether it's writing code, whether it's drawing, whether it's camera gear. It does it working on cars. I mean, creating something with your mind or your hands is a maker. So it's a very, very broad term.
Sure.
But I had always been fascinated with how things work and using my hands to manipulate things, whether it was toys or it was weird. I was interested in, like, when I was really young, mechanical, like, pens and pencils. Like I used to take them apart, and I really liked how the inside of them worked and stuff. And so anytime someone gave me a pen, the first thing I did with it was take it apart.
Why not?
son
I
of
mean,
a
why
gun.
write with it?
Yeah, because I wanted to know how it worked, and I was fascinated with
Right.
the way it's almost like a watch, you know.
Yeah, they had little gears in them.
Yeah, little tiny gears in some of them. And it was just fascinating to me how that worked or whatever. But it wasn't until I was always into music, and that was like my maker stream when I was younger. And then my stepdad, he's the one that really got me in the shop and like, working with my hands.
Right.
He taught me how to weld and to.
That's
We
cool.
worked on cars and just monkeying around in the shop and stuff, and taught me how to paint cars and stuff like that. So I grew up doing that, but I always was big into computers, which is why I went down the computer path.
Right.
And that's how, like he said, me and Jared know each other, is because we went to school together. Spent many a nights in my house on the dining room table watching Breaking Bad usually.
Nice.
I know we were doing homework, but yeah, Breaking Bad was certainly prevalent.
say that-
Either on
connection.
or something like that.
Ones and zeros to Breaking Bad.
It's either Breaking Bad or The Office, one of the two. It's
Okay.
Yeah.
always one of those two, period.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
But yeah, so getting in the computer world and it was it helped like bridge that gap and scratch that itch as far as making things with your hands, but it was in a digital format.
Sure.
You know, like writing code and writing a piece of software
Oh, that's a good point.
is making, you know, you're creating something in a digital form. But like there was nothing materialistic about it, and I don't mean that in the bad terms. I just mean I couldn't
Physical, tangible.
physically
Wasn't there.
touch it, you know. And it didn't feel like you were working with your hands, and it was something you could see in a 3D space. And so like I needed to do something, and I've always been big part of my upbringing was Mythbusters. Mythbusters.
Love Mythbusters.
Yeah, so Adam Savage has always been like a big hero of mine.
Yeah.
And
Which you've actually met. You've
Yeah, yeah.
had interaction with Adam, which is totally cool.
Yeah, I hung out with him one evening. That was a lot of fun. So he's big into prop making and making and stuff
Okay.
like that. He's obviously a maker. So that's what I want to do. I want to make props. So started kind of doing that in different forms of media, from cardboard, some foam, and stuff like that. And then I eventually got a 3D printer.
Okay.
And that was like life changing. I eventually ended up making a business out of that, which I still have.
Yeah.
3D printing stuff.
Right.
But that really opened up the gates as far as like being a maker and being able to create stuff in a digital form, which is like my background, to turn it into a physical product. So it's like the best of both worlds.
Oh, yeah.
right?
That's pretty cool.
So I was able to print my own props and stuff like that, and that was awesome. And then I don't know. I'm always dinked around with cars and motorcycles and stuff. I've had motorcycles since I was like 18 years old.
Okay.
Like, I would buy a motorcycle, and so it would drive my wife Emily nuts, and just always buying an old motorcycle or something. And we didn't have the room for it. And I restored a 67 Galera 106 in our living room.
Nice.
That doesn't seem like that's where that fits.
No, you don't have the room. That was our old house. It didn't have a garage. It didn't have
Right.
anything. So it was just sitting in our dining room.
So did you take the motorcycles and do the same things that you did with the pins, like just instant tear down?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah, I had an understanding of motors and how things worked,
Right.
so that really helped. But I mean, it's still scary territory. But I didn't really film anything, which is
Right.
very useful. Anytime you take something apart that you don't know
Oh,
what you're
for
doing.
sure.
Having
You've got to
that-
have those references.
Yes.
Yeah.
Massively important.
Even if you're not going to post it online, just for yourself, to have to where does this screw go?
I have 3 extra bolts here, and
Yeah.
the motorcycle is standing
That's when
in
you
my
know
living
you're
room.
in trouble, when you take something apart and you have extra parts left over when you put it back together.
I think I do
It
that
wasn't
every time.
necessary. I'm a better engineer than their
Yeah, I didn't
original-
need those.
I don't need
Yeah,
this.
they over-engineered it. I
Useless.
don't need these useless
I don't need this.
bolts. What are these valves for?
So you've just always been a tinkerer and someone who's
Yeah.
enjoyed working with their hands. I'm still trying to figure out how that gets you into Forge though.
Oh yeah, so it's kind of compounding and kind of building up, and then we were coming back from vacation. I don't remember from where, and we have some friends that we travel with, and we were waiting to leave that morning. We were waiting on our Uber or something, and we were in the room, the Airbnb, and me and my buddy were watching TV, and we were just waiting, just killing time,
Right.
flipping through the channels. I don't even remember what year this was. It might have been when we went to Canada.
Okay.
Don't remember.
He's looking over to Emily to get verification for that.
Yeah, just so you guys know.
Yeah, exactly. So we're flipping through the channels, me and my buddy Nick, and we passed Forge and Fire, and I was like, well, hold on, go back.
Yeah.
So we flipped back to that, and me and him ended up watching a couple episodes, and we had to leave, and it stuck with me, and it was on my mind. I was like, man, I can't wait to get home and find out this show, and how long has it been on? How have I not known about this?
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. And because forging is something that I think really any guy is going to be interested in.
Right.
Right,
I mean, it's
absolutely.
primal. It's just
Yeah.
it's just cool. And so of course it appealed to me in that aspect, but also from a maker standpoint of making something with your hands. And I remember growing up going to these little Renaissance fairs in Middle Tennessee.
The blacksmiths.
Yeah, and there was always a blacksmith set up, and it just I
yeah.
didn't want to leave. I could stay there all
Yeah.
day and watch. I didn't know what they were doing, but
Right.
I loved sitting there and watching
Mesmerizing.
them. Yeah, exactly.
It's like when you go to Dollywood and all you can hear is ding, ding,
Yeah, yeah.
ding, ding. Like when they had the coal forge out there.
Yeah.
Totally. Now they have a knife making school thing or whatever experience, I guess you could call it.
So you watched Forged in Fire, couple 2-3 episodes.
Yep.
You now got hooked. You got curious. You then got home and I guess dove into what the show was about. And at that point, that inspired you to.
Yeah,
I mean-
some time passed and it was just fun to watch. It was just a fun show to watch.
Yep.
And I eventually, just like anything, I'm not a sports guy. I don't watch sports. I'm not into sports.
Right.
Because it's just my personality. If I watch something, I'm eventually going to get to the point where I've got to do it. I've got to, and I go all in. I'm going to buy all the equipment. I'm going to do it or whatever.
So you like the process of figuring it out, figuring the art out, I guess we could say.
Yeah, exactly. In that aspect of taking it apart.
Yeah.
Doing it as part of taking it apart.
Sure.
Which I would even ask too, even further detail, why specifically forging? I know obviously you said it's primal, but I mean there's other shows out there. I remember one back when I was growing up that I loved was Junkyard Wars.
Oh, I remember that show.
So why aren't you out in a junkyard right now just hopping from car to car, just building bulldozers and robots and things like that? Why was it specifically forging? Was it because it was more primal than cars or automotive? What was it about forging specifically?
No, I'm gonna give you a pretty simple answer.
Okay.
It's all about timing. And what I mean by that is financial freedom. Being in an aspect, if it had been that day and Junkyard Wars came on,
Yeah.
and I was at the place where I was at where I'd finally finished school up.
Right.
Me and the wife were both finally working, from her being in school and me just working, barely making ends meet for years and years. to finally having a decent paying job
Right.
where you kind of had I'm not saying we're wealthy. I just meant it was like finally a little bit of freedom, a
Yeah,
little
you could
bit
play-
of extra
you could
money
play a little bit.
to play with. We finally had, a little bit of buffer there, which was really nice. And so, yeah, if it was Junkyard Wars that I had come across then, I'd probably be coming down here to the Greenville scrapyard.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like that would be my thing.
So it was
Yeah.
just strictly that's what was on the screen that
That's
day.
what caught you that day.
Yeah, it was. I think it
That's cool.
really
That
boils
time.
down to timing, but yeah, I'm also drawn to it. Like you said, it's just really cool. But I didn't know really what I was getting myself into at the time. It was more or less scratching an itch about seeing something that I was interested in.
Right.
I have to try it to see if it's something that I even like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or to better understand what I'm seeing here, because I don't necessarily understand what I'm seeing.
Right.
I understand enough because by then I'd gotten into watching tons of YouTube content. Alex Steele was a big inspiration for me, and he was like one of the first big YouTube stars in the forging world.
Okay.
So, tons of energy. Yeah, and then it just sort of like I ended up buying a cheap anvil at Harbor Freight and then a little forge off of eBay, and it was just like just dinking around every once in a while.
Yeah.
When
But that's what
I'd
got
feel
you
like it.
there. I mean,
Good old
Yeah, yeah.
Harbor Freight, # not sponsored.
Yeah, and I've told this story 1,000 times. I wouldn't be where I'm at right now if it wasn't for Emily putting because for me it was just something fun to do.
Right.
And
We
Emily's your
didn't-
wife. Emily's your wife, just so the
Yes,
audience
yeah,
knows.
Yeah, not my sister.
I mean, we are in Tennessee. So.
It's true.
Gotta clarify
Maybe she
there.
is my sister.
who knows?
I
Ouch.
don't know. Hard to say. But yeah, for me, it was just something fun to do, you
Right.
know, like a stress reliever. I didn't really plan on making a business or doing anything with it. It was just, something fun. Friends would come over. Hey, let's light the forge. I don't know what I'm doing. You don't know what you're doing. But
Let's make something.
Come
Let's
look at
do
my
something.
big box of fire.
yeah, exactly. And so she filled out the application unknown to me for Forged and Fire.
Oh,
Oh my gosh, this was fresh after you started?
It wasn't long after I started.
Oh my, I never knew that.
No,
I didn't know that either.
Wow.
And I also didn't know that she did it
Yeah.
unbeknownst to you.
Yeah.
That's
I-
crazy.
I need to send you the pictures that we originally sent to Forge and Fire of my,
Oh my goodness.
workshop and the
Okay.
tools that I owned at the time, which were laughable.
I'm kind of baffled right now. Like, talk about, no pun intended, trial by fire.
Oh shoot! I see what you did there.
Yeah. Like so what was that timeline though? Like, hey, you had a forge maybe like a month, 2 months?
No, we're talking like 6 months.
Oh, still though.
Dang.
And
Less
she,
than a
She
year.
put the application in?
Yeah, I think it was less than a year. And because I was big in the show, I was watching it all the time.
Right,
and
right.
so she knew that I enjoyed it. And
Well,
then
yeah, but I mean, I watched, Junkyard Wars for years, and I cannot build a robot from a Dadburn, Chevy 350.
yeah, you can't.
Not yet. I mean, that takes
getting there. You
need
that
to
takes years
consume
of
more.
practice, but in 6 months, you're on a show.
Yeah, your wife's like, you know what? I think
I think this guy's got it.
I'm gonna put him in.
Talk about a
throw his
belief
name
system.
in the hat.
Little claps
put
for
me in,
that.
coach. Put me in, coach.
Little
Yeah.
claps for the belief system and the support. I will little clap for that all day long.
Yeah.
She threw you to it, man.
Or she wanted me out of the house. It's
That
either
too.
way.
That too.
One of
could
the
be that.
two.
Okay.
Who knows?
It's a mixture of both.
Wow.
So you end up getting onto Forged in Fire. I'm just going to let the cat out of the bag. The
Yeah.
audience may not know that you actually made it on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A very specific episode.
He truly is a TV personality.
Yeah, that was. I mean, I wasn't lying.
Yeah,
when I
you
said
weren't
that.
lying.
It wasn't just a normal episode though.
No, it wasn't.
Talk about that episode.
So, kind of rewind a little bit in terms of like when I got accepted on the show after she put the application in. It was like, okay, this is no longer a simple hobby. I have
Right.
to take this serious because I'm going to
Yes.
be on television, and I do not want to go on television and make an absolute fool of myself.
Right.
Bingo.
So now is the time I've got to do something.
I got to
And-
buckle down.
And so one of the people that helped start the show was Jason Knight, and he had moved into the area about a year prior to
This is Northeast Tennessee, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I got you.
prior to me getting accepted on the show. And so I knew he was in the area. I knew he helped start the show. I had actually ran into him and talked to him a few times before,
Right.
and so I just reached out to him, and then that was kind of like the rest is history in terms of like our friendship. And he's a really good friend of mine. He's taught me everything I know.
I was going to say, he was ultimately your mentor, correct?
Yeah, he is my mentor.
Still is.
It still is my mentor. He took
Right.
me under his wing, and
Yeah.
he provided me with so much knowledge and really, really like exponentially increase my skill set in a
He
short
threw gas
amount
on
of
your
time.
fire.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Which I think speaks highly to Jason as well, because correct me if I'm wrong, he is probably the most well-known bladesmith in the world. Would you go that far to say
Everyone
that?
knows the name Jason Knight.
Yeah, so for him to take, a newbie under the wing like that speaks highly to Jason, but also I think it speaks to your character and probably what he saw in you as well.
Yeah.
I think it's a perfect connection at that point in time, because again, you've been doing this. We'll go all the way back to childhood, taking pins apart. He could probably see the maker in you.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that speaks highly to both of you guys for his character and for your ability and character as well.
Right.
That ultimately he became and still is a mentor to you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he always will be a mentor for me for sure.
So on the timeline, though, you connected with him before your actual filming of your episode, right?
Correct. I'd been accepted on the show,
Yeah.
but I hadn't. I didn't have a filming date, which could happen at any point
Right.
from the time you're accepted.
I didn't know that's how that
basically.
worked.
Yeah.
You didn't know how long you had to study for the test.
No.
Wow.
And so timing wise, unfortunately we had COVID and all that.
Right.
But it was a little bit of a blessing in disguise for me, because
Right.
it kind of halted production.
Yep.
And it gave me a huge buffer. And by that, I mean a year and a half.
So you were able to get
You're able to
quite a
hone
bit
it.
of knives under your belt then.
Yes.
Hone
and
the
lot
skills
of
a little bit.
practice.
Nice. That's helpful.
Upgrade my equipment.
Sure.
And just learn from the master, Jason. And also Liam Hoffman, a big shout out to him. He helped train me as well for the show.
Yeah.
Liam Hoffman is
Also in East Tennessee.
East
Also
Tennessee,
in East Tennessee.
early seasons of Forge and Fire. He was the youngest person to win Forge and Fire.
Yeah, he won
at
his
the time.
episode.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He what was he 6? I think he was 16, and he beat a master bladesmith.
Yeah.
So
That's nuts.
He's gone on to create a very, very successful business.
Still looks 16. The dude just stays forever young.
Oh yeah.
My
Yeah,
Peter
goodness.
Pan.
we make fun of him all the time.
But he's one of the most well-known axe makers
Yeah.
in the world, correct?
That's
For
what
one
his
of
business is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He
Mostly?
is. Yes, mostly axes. He is the only person in the United States making handmade axes at the level,
The capacity that
the
he does.
capacity. Yeah.
I
We've seen
saw
his system.
his axe on a Peter McKinnon video.
Yes, on YouTube.
Yeah, mhm.
Yeah.
Did I send you that?
I don't think you sent
So
it to
Peter
me,
McKinnon.
but I was aware of
Peter
that.
McKinnon's.
He's one of our heroes.
Yeah, he's one of our heroes. He's got like 6 million subs. He's
Yeah.
a huge video camera YouTuber.
Yeah.
He was at Blade Show, by the way.
Peter was.
Peter was?
Yeah, he
Wow.
really likes tactile things.
That's
He's
cool how those
really
are
good with-
cross-pollinating now.
It's
He had the coolest booth I've ever seen at Blade Show.
oh, he's big
is
on
it Pete's
design.
Pirate Life.
He built an entire half of a pirate ship in
Yes.
Blade Show, and it
Yep.
was like legit. It wasn't like some cardboard cutout.
Pete doesn't have to do anything.
Yeah,
He was a really
doesn't-
cool guy. I met him briefly. So.
He doesn't skimp out on set design.
But my point is like to rope us back into the
Liam's
axes
axe
and
was on Pete's
Liam's
channel.
axe was being used by someone he did a whole video on.
Yeah.
in this backcountry who was making like a house out of timbers.
Yeah, it was solo camping
But
and
yeah, I mean
timber
the guy
building.
was literally using it because his brand, his maker's mark.
Yeah. I saw it on the. Yeah.
Well, I was like, that's Liam's.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We're just really cool how that.
It's cool how the
works out.
worlds collide.
Yeah.
Because again, pizza maker too. Pizza maker, and he appreciates
Right.
other makers that are in other lanes, I guess you would say.
Yep.
Because he's a photographer, he's a videographer, he's a cinematographer, whatever you want to call him. But he we'll go back to the saying, real recognize real.
Oh, okay.
He recognized the maker in this guy that he was following out in the woods, who apparently realized Liam's making abilities, which is why that X was on there. Anyways, we digress.
Yeah.
So Liam won.
Yeah, he won. Yeah, so he helped me. He's a good friend of mine, and he helped me kind of train for the show and stuff. So, yeah, I had to take it serious because I was going to be on TV, and I wanted to do the best I
Right.
could. And if I had gone on the show when I got accepted on the show, it would have been. I'm sure
story.
there's been way worse people, skill wise.
You want to name those people? Like, should we call them? I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah, I've got a list right here.
Of all the people I'm better than.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
You suck.
I got to keep your goals in front of you.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it would have been embarrassing. But yeah, I'm sure there's people that have gone on that show that are in the same. Because I think a lot of people who they get into knife making and me and Jared were talking about this before we were
Yeah, we're talking about it off camera.
Yeah, off camera.
off camera here of in terms of like some people, and I think we all fall guilty of it. We make something and then we've done it. we're this 1% of 1% that figured this out on the first try.
This is the best.
And especially in the knife making world, I think that's an issue.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people do that. There's a lot of bad knives out there that are selling for a lot of money.
Right.
And these people never get better. They sell the same knife over and over for years, and they never make a better knife, and they're selling for a ton of money.
Oof.
But
that happens in our world too.
Yeah, that happens in any industry.
Sure. Yeah. Exactly. So,
So basically, so the viewers can know, you made knives a couple, 2-3 years ago now. Client was using them, which is what you want them to do. They are a tool.
Yeah.
Well, they took some abuse, right? They needed a little bit of TLC.
Yeah.
So they got brought back to you.
Which is normal, by the way.
Yeah, to be rehabbed. And you were talking to me off camera about the pieces, and you were pointing out all these issues. It's like, I can't believe I did this.
yeah.
I can't. So that to me marks growth.
Yeah,
that
growth and improvement.
shows growth, because like Garrett and I joke about all the time. I took pictures a year
Yesterday.
ago. Well,
Yesterday.
hopefully the ones I like yesterday are still likable at the moment. But
But I can still pick things out.
yeah, it's like you can constantly look back at work. If you're improving, you're going to look back at past work and be like, yeah, that wasn't.
Yeah.
I remember thinking that was good. I remember being really proud of this video or this set of photos or whatever.
And I still appreciate that moment.
Yeah, because
appreciate that moment in
because
time,
at the time that was your best. I mean,
Yeah,
that
I was doing to the best of my abilities.
and no different than your blades that you've made over the years. You can look back at them, and now with your current skill set, knowledge, and all of those things, and be like, yeah, this is not up to my current standard.
Right.
I think that's important.
Well, you said like a picture you took yesterday. I mean, that's a real thing. Like I don't think that's something that you should be ashamed of or anything like that. Like I think you were saying as a joke, but it's absolutely a real thing, because it depends on the time of the day. It
Right.
depends on how much you've invested into the thing that you're making that day.
Right.
Other aspects in life, you've got kids, you're running around. Your brain can't process what you're working on fully in like a creative capacity, and sometimes you have to sleep on it.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
And you'll get up, and I do this all the time on something like a knife or whatever. I come down to the shop the next day, and I've like profiled it or whatever, and I was really happy with that profile, and it may be later in the day, and I come down there and I'm like,
I hate this.
what was I thinking there?
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's either your mind processed that data, it's fresh, it's new, or it could be that you saw inspiration from another maker.
Sure.
Well, someone who's more experienced from you than you, and like, you know what? I should make this little change here.
Yeah, let me
I think
pivot
it'll
this
make
direction a little bit.
yeah, this angle is 1 degree off, but that can make all the difference in the world when it comes to comfort, performance on a knife for sure. So, yeah, a day can make a huge difference. We were watching Christine McConnell video yesterday, and she mentioned something. She was working with print, and so she was de-aging this old picture because she had redone this old house, and it had the original owner's pictures in it.
Oh, I
So
love
she-
that.
Yeah, she was de-aging it in Photoshop. And she mentioned something that I had been completely forgotten that I actually learned in Photoshop, because before I was a software developer and computer science major, I was at TTU as a web designer. So I was taking art classes, Photoshop, things like that. And so I had Photoshop classes, and she had mentioned something where you change the perspective on something, and it was just mirroring something so that your like left brain, right brain can see it in a different aspect, and it can kind of like make things
Oh, that's deep.
You see literally from a different angle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you can see things differently. So that kind of like rekindled something. So like,
You're saying that this, I don't want to gloss over that. You're saying just for like that process, for a temporary moment, flip it essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you'll
sure.
see it differently.
Yeah. Like, so for instance, a knife, like you could flip it completely. Like you're looking at it horizontal, to the horizon with the point left of you. Flip it the other way.
Yeah,
Or
just to see.
put the point facing down, and I guarantee you that knife is going to look different.
That's a good point.
That
I hadn't
happens
thought
to
about
us in the editing suite all the
Sure.
time. We always mention, whether we're editing photos, video, whatever, if you've been on a project for hours at a time, you're gonna start slipping a little bit.
There's gonna be
probably.
fatigue.
Yeah, you're gonna have fatigue. Eye fatigue is big in our world, but it is great, even if it's just a 30-minute breather, like
yeah.
step away. for 30 minutes and come back. I promise you, I find things all the time.
It's like cleansing your palate.
Yeah, you're cleansing your palate.
Right.
I find things all the time, and literally a day later, I'm like, I hate this.
But see, on the other side of that though, at some point
Some point in time, you have to make a decision.
Got to draw the line.
Yeah, you got to make a decision.
Because otherwise, what'll happen? That's an endless cycle. If
You'll never finish.
You'll never finish because truly, you'll literally see it different the next day. You'll see something. It's like, oh, I could tweak this.
What is it?
Change this.
What is it we hear from Peter McKinnon again? Done is better than perfect.
Yeah, done's better than perfect.
That's true.
At some point,
There's a break even.
it's got to be done.
Yeah, there's diminishing return at some point in time.
So now you have a successful business where you sell, you build and you make and sell knives. Are you primarily like making custom pieces, or are you making pieces that you like and then trying to find a buyer for them? How's that? What's that look like for you guys right now?
It's pretty much 50-50. So basically when I'm not taking custom orders, I'm making something that I want to make.
Okay.
And then the any other time of that is teaching classes. So
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So how often are you teaching classes right now?
So I'm teaching it with a friend of mine who's also a bladesmith, also been on Forge and Fire, local to the area. Jason Lau, shout out to him. Tavern Hill Blades.
Yeah, Tavern Hill.
Great guy. He
Link in description below.
Yeah.
yeah, right.
No, we will for sure.
We'll link both of you guys.
So me and him are teaching classes together.
Okay.
And that allows us to teach more people versus like when it was just me, I can really only handle like 2 people.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you got to keep an eye on them, and you know somebody's
Gotta
not
have that
getting the proper
ratio,
attention. So
that
yeah,
golden
there's
ratio.
a break even there for sure.
Yeah, 5 people is too many to handle.
Oh, yeah.
in a teaching aspect, especially with knives and like you said, safety and stuff like that. So,
Right.
I brought him on, and so he helps teach the class.
Okay.
And those are we try to do one of those a month, and then I recently opened up private classes.
Okay.
So it's one-on-one. It's only one student.
So you're now the mentor.
Yeah, and I'm it's all kinds of people from different skill levels and
Right.
stuff. A lot of it's just like, hey, I saw Forge and Fire,
Yeah.
and I want to try this.
Can you get me started?
Yeah, exactly. Or I'll never do this again. I'm just fascinated with it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's perfectly fine too. And we typically make a kitchen knife. I kind of leave it open. I was like, if they want to make something else, we will.
Okay.
But
That's kind of your
typically-
specialty right now, isn't it? Is kitchen knives?
Yeah, that's the path that I really there's just something about a kitchen knife
Mm-hmm.
that is
They're so utilitarian.
yeah, they can be used for a lot of things really,
Yes,
but
sure.
it's a
It's probably the most regularly used knife.
yeah, from a selfish aspect, it's like it from money wise, like
Yeah.
it's going to appeal to more people
Right.
because everyone uses a kitchen
Right.
knife.
It's, it's more widely used
Yeah.
than like a
So-
big hunting knife or something like that.
We'll touch on that in a second. Where can, because I mean we're right around the holidays now. Where can people? I believe buying a course from you or a class from you would be a great gift. Where can people get those? Is that on your website? They book it on your website?
Yeah, so typically when we push them out there, it's the end of the year is kind of like booked up, and we put some things on hold until January.
Yeah.
With Jason Lau moving and stuff like that, so we're kicking classes back up in January 2024.
Can they go ahead and reserve those spots though, or have you closed?
Not
bookings?
yet,
Okay.
but soon we're going to have the next class posted on my
Gotcha,
website,
gotcha.
thefranklinforge.com.
Okay.
Link in
And-
description below.
Yeah, apparently I pronounce the very poorly because I have a lot of people when I tell them that they say
Well, what do they think you said?
B Franklin
D.
Forge. Oh, D. Okay.
D Franklin Forge.
So maybe I
Interesting.
should just change it to D Franklin
change it
Forge.
to
I don't know what
Duh
the D
Franklin
Should at
stands
least
Forge.
buy that domain just in
Yeah,
case
right.
somebody's searching it that
Duh
way.
Yeah, and then just
Franklin.
port it
You may
over.
be missing out on income.
I could be. Yeah, but well, I can't find it. The
So-
guy lied to me.
Yeah.
So if courses are off right now, what if somebody just physically wants to purchase a piece from you? Like, what if I want to get a kitchen set for my wife for Christmas? The Franklin Forge again.
Yeah, you can reach out to me on the Franklin Forge on through my contact form and stuff like that. And a lot of my stuff, my inventory that I make that isn't for a custom order is going to be on Instagram.
Okay.
Post on there. That's where I do. Most
Link in
of my
description
posting.
below.
Yeah, I do have a YouTube that I post. Have been trying to be pretty good about. That is just for shorts right now. You guys have shot some YouTube videos for me in
Yeah.
the past, and I'd like to eventually get back into that. But right now, I'm just sort of cross posting.
Yeah.
like Instagram, Reel, and then porting that over to YouTube as a short. So
Which I think is a pretty good model for you right now because you are so busy and trying to build those things with Jason, especially.
Yeah.
With Lau. I think it's a pretty good system you've got going on, and we've seen it from you, and also your wife Emily with her page, which I can't wait to talk about. I think you've got a pretty good system going on, and actually, we mentioned it in a previous episode. You fall into that category as I would say Max from Living Knot.
Right.
You've got your little flow with mobile content, and I've noticed that you're being pretty consistent with it.
Yeah, trying to be. Yeah.
So that YouTube thing, I think YouTube is such a good place to find answers to like the how-to questions.
Yes.
That is such a good resource. People are constantly going, how to replace my car battery. You know what I'm saying? It's like how to fill in the blank. It's there. No different than I would imagine in the knife making space. So one thing that may make it a little easier for you to kind of get back into that long form content. You mentioned it. Cell phone content is totally sufficient today.
Right.
And in most cases, they're more than capable machines from a cinematic standpoint. I think an easy way, because we've talked about it off camera many, many times, you know your stuff. So I think a great simple way for you to get back on that horse, so to speak, is literally to shoot like time lapses, because a lot of your stuff is going to take shape and the visual transformation is going to take a full day to get there, whatever, right? So like a time lapse might be a really good thing, and then you just
time lapse.
you just voice over it. You just narrate it.
But everything I do is like loud, so it's not like I have any good audio to capture.
Right.
It's a difficult environment, absolutely. So, but like that would be, I think, a great way for you to get back into that.
Just set up a big wide shot in your shop.
Yeah.
So we don't want you.
I mean, if you're mindful of it, change camera angle, whatever, to get in on this detail, whatever. But like you know, don't worry, because a lot of people get inundated with like talking to camera. Which you're a TV personality, that's not a problem for you.
Very famous,
very well spoken. None of those
famous.
things matter to you.
huge biceps.
Very few bloopers when we film with you, so like you're really good at it. But my point is like that would be an easy way for you to get right back on that saddle and start building that long form content back up.
Or even if you did want to talk on camera, another play alongside of the how to voiceover time lapses is just a series. Chunk it up a little bit. Say, hey, you know, I'm making this camping knife, and you know, maybe have a 5-part series where you're just giving it to your audience in little doses. That encourages them to come back as well, because if I've started on, this happens to me all the time on, let's just say TikTok or any series, I start at like part 3 for whatever reason.
Sure.
Part 3 gets pushed in first. Yeah, and I'm like, oh, I like this. So then I have to go to the page. I have to go back and start from part 1, and I think that's a great way actually to get people to come back to your platform because they're curious. Like, well, what was part 1?
Yeah, what did I
was
miss?
part 2? Exactly. It's the fear of missing out.
Yeah.
FOMO.
No, you're absolutely right. To do these things, I need to start an Indiegogo to get lights in my shop.
There you go.
Hey,
there you go.
Hey, you can do it. So you mentioned something. Yeah, you mentioned a couple things that I want to wrap up with, or I want to come back to. You said that you kind of specialize in kitchen knives, and I know because of discussions and working with you off camera that Jason Lau kind of specializes in like bushcraft.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
So it's like, I want you to kind of touch on the importance of basically niching down and specializing.
Yeah.
And how that is important for, you know, someone who wants to make a living from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely not an expert on it. It's something that I've just sort of seen the successful makers, knife makers specifically, the ones that have really gone on. You know, Liam being a great example of this.
The axes.
Finding a niche, and that's axes.
Yeah.
And that's
Because Liam can make anything.
Oh,
He
yeah.
can make any blade.
he's an incredible maker.
But what he
and you
chooses
can
to build
too.
his business on.
is axes, and that's just
Well, same thing with Jason Knight. I mean, he specializes in the kukri.
yeah. That was like his thing.
Yeah.
And once again, he can make anything, and he
Right.
teaches classes
Right.
on everything.
But his bread and butter is the kukri.
Yeah, that was the thing that really put him on the the map.
Liam's bread and butter is the axe. So
Yeah.
are you trying to make, or have you already made the kitchen knife your bread and butter pretty much?
No pun intended.
Working that way. I want to be seen as a professional thing, and I think not having a niche, it also creates a bit of confusion on what your
What do you
your
do?
loyalties are. And when you go to, it's like walking into a Walmart or a Dollar General. You know, everything is sold there. You know,
Right.
versus like you don't trust anything,
Right.
because there's
Everything's there.
You're going to
everything's
have a
not
median,
specialty.
median level of quality.
Exactly, but if
No
you
authority present. You can't.
Yeah.
You're not an expert or
Right.
anything like
No,
that.
not you. Yeah, you're just a master of none. So specializing in something and creating a consistency from your customer standpoint, and focusing on one thing.
Yep.
You know, and that means cutting out custom orders,
Okay.
which is kind of tough because that's a lot of what my orders are.
Right.
Is custom orders. It's especially around here. It's a lot of hunting knives.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So, just say, hey, you know what? I'm only going to do kitchen knives,
Yep.
and I'm going to do larger volumes of them, which may mean that I don't forge them, and that is fine,
Right.
Because at the end of the day, it's the same material,
Right.
That's scary, though.
Right.
We've talked about it on multiple episodes.
Yeah.
It's a scary concept for someone who's trying to build something,
Yeah.
especially to make ends meet with it, right? To make
Yeah.
money with it. It's like, no, if I'm like cutting down on my audience,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I'm eliminating all of these other buyers who want this type of knife,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
this whatever. But the issue is, again, you become the Walmart basically,
Yeah.
to where you can't be seen as a specialist of any sort, and you can't become like the go-to for anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I think too, the going back to the Walmart, when I think of somebody that goes into Walmart, I hate Walmart, but I know people that love going into Walmart, i.e. my mother. When my mother goes into Walmart, she just goes in there to browse and shop and waste time.
Yep.
Yeah,
And as a maker, as a business owner, you don't want shoppers. You don't want tire kickers, as we say here in the South.
Would you just look at it?
Yeah, would you just look at it? Let me go down every darn aisle
Right.
in this store. My wife does it at the grocery store. We go in with a list, but she still goes up and down every aisle, just browsing and meandering.
I'm a checker. Like,
Yeah.
got this, move to the next.
It drives me nuts. But you don't want those people coming onto your site, essentially, when it comes to the kitchen stuff, because you need people that know what they're there for.
Right. That
Like
helps.
when somebody calls you and says, Brandon, I know you're the kitchen knife guy.
Yep.
I'm not a shopper. I'm a buyer.
Yep.
I need the kitchen
Right.
knife
Yeah.
now. That to me makes your process so much easier.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think it increases customer relations too, because again, they know you as the expert. They're not pounding you with questions like, well, can you do this? Can you make me a camping knife? Can you make me a hunt knife? No. I know when I come to you what you're good at, and you're the guy that I'm seeking out.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I think there's power in that. I
Yeah,
think
there is.
power in
There's a
that.
lot of power. It's very professional. Yep. High end filling.
Yeah.
And another thing, naming your products.
Yes.
And putting your maker's mark on it. To any new makers out there, like, I don't care how crappy it looks. Put your name on it.
Yeah.
You just do it.
Yeah.
Figure that out, whether it's with a Dremel or whatever your medium is.
Well, that's a way for somebody to get back to you.
Right.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a calling. It's it's a business card. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Can I ask you this too, though? So I know you're specialized. Okay, forget about it.
Moving on.
I know you're specializing in kitchen knives, and I know deep down, going back to young Brandon, the tinkerer, the guy that loves figuring things out and taking things apart. Do you still afford yourself the opportunity, because a kitchen knife is pretty specific on use case and design, but do you ever find yourself wanting to try to innovate the kitchen knife? How much of that goes on in the knife making world? Because there's pretty set designs when it comes to blades specifically. Like you have the kukri, it's known for having its front curve or whatever. You've got your camping knives that are known for a certain design. But with kitchen knives specifically, do you ever try to bring some of that creativity into that design, or is it a pretty set thing?
No, there's room for creativity
Right.
in certain aspects of it. With kitchen knives, depending on what you're making and whether you're making a Japanese style, like a Nikiri, a Gyoto or something like that.
So you can get stylistic with it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of freedom in the handle.
Gotcha.
Gotcha.
That makes sense.
But in terms of material, in terms of shape, there's so many facets you can go down. And I've melded the two worlds together in the past, and I plan on bringing it back in terms of how can I make a kitchen knife that anyone can afford?
Okay.
That's out of high quality materials,
Right,
properly
right.
heat treated, but you can't afford it. And, I have ways of doing that with my 3D printing.
Right.
And so I can
yeah,
bring
yeah,
3D
yeah.
printing and my knife making world
That's
together
cool.
to,
You're merging again.
yeah.
I like
But
it.
what's hard about that is selling something that has the word 3D printed in it. So you have to be marketing and
Yeah,
say
true.
industrial polymers.
Right,
There you
right.
go. Still
People hear-
true.
Yeah, people hear 3D printed, they think cheap.
Right.
Bingo.
And that's because of how 3D printing got started. It was prototyping. It was
Right.
Yeah.
PLA, which is like it's really brittle. It's not.
Yeah, and it
something
was
you
used
can
for
print.
just a lot of modeling.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, now there is strong materials out there that are better than wood.
Okay.
They're not going to be affected. You could throw them in the dishwasher.
Right.
They're not going to be
Ah,
affected
okay,
by
okay.
heat
temperature.
and temperature and
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. So, and you can do any color you want. So if you outside the kitchen knife thing, if you want to make a hunting knife, and you can 3D print orange handles, and that's going to be
Ah, yep.
better to see in the woods if you drop your knife.
Right.
So,
That's cool.
but yeah, kind of bringing that creativity of something different, because I've not seen anyone do 3D printed handles on a kitchen knife before. I have
Right.
done them. I did a run of them years ago. Going back to looking at your old stuff and be like, now look at that knife that I designed. I had those water jet cut, and I was heat treating them, and it's like, that thing's rough.
Yeah,
It's like,
right.
It's cool,
Right.
because of the materials that I brought into
Right.
it, 3D printed carbon fiber and resin printing into this 80 CRV2 blade.
Yeah.
But it needs work, and that's where like I've gotten better. I understand design better. I understand specifically kitchen knives design, because kitchen knives are what I think I like about them the most is that you have to be precise on them,
Right.
and they're like a watch. There's certain things you have to adhere by. That's the reason
Well, for
mechanical
functionality.
watches have not really changed in
Right.
100 years. They're pretty much the same. Maybe materials have changed.
But they have to work this way.
Yeah. So edge geometry, spine thickness,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing all these across the different styles of kitchen knives, whether it's a paring knife, and knowing those spine thicknesses and what angle you grind the cutting edge and stuff, like there's
okay.
that precision to it that I really appreciate and I find
Mm-hmm.
attractive, where other knives there's a little bit more leeway, depending
Yeah.
on what you're doing. Some of them are specific, but
Right.
there can be a lot more leeway on spine thickness and
Mm-hmm.
edge geometry, where a kitchen knife, if you want it to properly perform, it has to be a certain way.
Pretty set in stone. And I guess the reason that I asked that last question is because I know as a creator, we want to dabble with so many different
yeah,
things.
sure.
And again, like Jared mentioned, it's tough at first to say, nope, going to specialize in this, because the creative side of you says, well, gosh, what if I can make a sweet kukri? What if I can make this sweet like anime blade?
Yeah, whatever.
Or this custom order comes in and you're like, oh gosh, that would be super fun to do. I guess my point was, like, does that creativity ever have to seep back in just so that you don't go nuts doing the same thing? But it sounds like you've got a pretty good amount of flexibility, even
Yeah,
in the kitchen
absolutely.
knobs, that you
Yeah.
can bring some creativity in to keep it fresh, keep it fun for you as a creator. That's
yeah,
awesome.
there's so many options out there, and the famous Steve Schwartzer, said we're all living on the shoulders of giants. So in the knife making world, it's really true. It's like it's really hard pressed to do something that hasn't been done before.
Yeah, something that's totally fresh.
Yeah.
That's a good point, and that literally is a great segue to my next question. You mentioned blessing in disguise based upon the 1.5-year buffer that ended up being the case with all of the scheduling issues with Forest and Fire. It allowed you to get better, but you got better as a result of your network.
Yes.
And so something that I think a lot of creative people have issue with is, for whatever reason, there's a lot of gatekeeping that goes on. And there's fear of like, oh, I can't reach out to this person
Yeah.
and teach them this, because then I'm not the only person who knows this or whatever.
Giving them the secrets.
But you literally said it. We're standing on the shoulders of giants. Is that how you worded
Yeah.
it?
Yep.
It's like, so there's nothing in the knife making world really that hasn't been done.
Yeah, it's like
and our
totally
brains
new.
really don't have the ability to. I mean, everything is drawn from some inspiration somewhere that someone else put before you.
Oh, sure.
And so, but you mentioned it, and I want you to speak to it, is the importance of collaborating, reaching out, working with other people in your space, because I feel like that you mentioned it accelerated your growth.
yeah.
Oh yeah, it's the only way to grow. If you just stay if you want to get better, if you're okay with just doing what you're doing, because it relieves stress,
Sure. Being a
after
lone
your
wolf.
long days of work, fine.
Yeah.
But if you want to truly master something and get better, you have to expand outside of your little box.
Yeah, good
You
point.
have to reach out to other makers, and you have to push yourself, because it's going to open your eyes to, we brushed on earlier, people who like, they make something, they like that's it. I'm never
Right.
getting better. I've done it.
Right.
And those people aren't seeking advice from other people.
Yep.
And you have to be open to criticism.
Yeah,
That's a big one.
That's a big one. You got to have
That's a tough one for
some
people like
humility.
us.
Yeah, I think everyone. I don't think there's
Yeah.
a single person on this earth, unless they're diagnosed with some severe mental disorder.
Yep.
Has it? It hurts at first, but it's something you can
yeah.
learn. It's a
Well, yeah,
and
we
it's
all have
kinda-
egos. We all have
well,
egos.
it's a cool skill to learn, to be
Mm-hmm.
able, and it's like a pin, a badge that you can receive once
Mm-hmm.
you get past yourself and those demons in your head, and like say, hey, I can finally take criticism and it
Yeah.
doesn't hurt me.
Yeah, it doesn't affect me.
That's when you can start growing,
Right,
And
right.
that's important.
Oh, that's big. Somebody write that down. If that's resonating, write that down.
Oh yeah.
Dang.
No, it is. It's super important to growth and becoming, better and
Mr. Forged in psychology here.
forging psychology.
Dang.
And it's also important to understand that everyone is different.
Yes.
Everyone learns at different rates.
Oh yeah.
And there's certain things that you may not ever be able to achieve because that's just not you.
Right.
But you can find something out about yourself that you're actually good at that you didn't realize you were good at.
Right.
If you expand outside of your box and you take classes and you reach out to other people, because in the knife making world, and I wouldn't even say the knife making world, the maker world, the people that are holed up inside and they don't share the things that they know,
Yeah.
they're not going anywhere.
Right.
Every maker I've ever come across, from big names like Jimmy DiResta, Adam Savage, all those people are so open with their skills and knowledge, and they share it for free.
Yeah.
And that's the maker community, and that's the way it should be. So I teach classes, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not free. I don't do it for free.
Right,
Right.
but you're teaching a technical skill
Yes.
at that point in time.
Yeah.
I think the thing that goes with those giants, we'll just call them giants, because you use that phrasing. Take Adam, for example. One of the greatest creators probably to live, obviously made a career at somebody just videoing him being a creator. But I think people like that understand the process of, like, no different than you approaching, Adam for whatever advice or help. Like, he had to get it from somewhere too. A true
Bingo.
creator and a true maker understands, like, nope, I wasn't born with it. I had to receive it through my environment that I placed myself in, the people that I placed around me. Like, it didn't just come to me. And I think that true makers, true creators, and just human beings with some humility understand, like, no, I've got to help this next generation. I've got to lift up the next generation because somebody lifted me up.
Well, so that's important because perspective is very important, and the people who lose sight of, I think the great creators, the great makers, never feel as though they've
No.
answered all of the questions.
No.
There's nothing more that I can learn about this. Period. I know absolutely
A lot of them lack confidence, actually. They feel like they've just not arrived at any point.
But it's important. So, like, in your case specifically, you reached out to Jason, who you saw further ahead in the career than you.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing that you've not lost sight of, and I think that's really key, is there are people looking up to you.
Right.
And someone today is at, I just watched my first episode of Forged and Fired. I want to now dabble in this.
Yeah.
Now,
And
their
so-
wife might have not put in that application yet, but it's
Maybe
probably
not.
coming.
But my point is that is a never-ending cycle
Yeah.
of levels of skill, knowledge, all of those things. And so, community, not being a gatekeeper
Yeah.
of your secrets.
Yeah.
That's so important to growth. And then just in general, just growing the craft.
Yeah, I was going to say the
yeah,
craft,
absolutely.
if you appreciate the craft and care about its longevity at the end of the day,
Yeah.
you have to raise other people up, because when we're dead and gone, I mean, we see it happen all the time. We're what, 1 to 2 generations from a lack of information, killing whatever facet you want to talk about. So
sure.
if our generation doesn't pass on the knowledge of videography and photography, it's going to die.
Yeah.
If you in your generation of knife making don't pass on that information to somebody, it dies. And as a lover of any craft, I think that hurts us.
Yeah.
To think about the fact that something that we love and put so much time and effort, blood, sweat, tears into, literally for you, just the thought of it dying, I think is enough to keep me going and wanting to lift people up into it as well.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And another thing from the aspect of the people just sitting at home, everyone's passionate about certain things, and they're probably passionate about something that's weird. And I think it's extremely important. It's not, you're not purposely holding this back from other people, but
Right.
Yeah.
whatever you're passionate about, share it with other people.
Yeah. Let's
Whether-
get weird. Let it be weird.
Yeah, and I know it doesn't matter how weird it is. Like,
Right.
if you're passionate about it, share it. Whether that's verbally, that's shooting a video,
Yeah.
and
Putting it in a notebook.
but yeah, just get it out there somewhere, and don't just hold it up because you're going to inspire someone else,
Yeah.
or
Yes.
you're going to push someone else to be like, I thought I was the only one that was into painting
Bingo.
eggs.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like
That is
I
weird.
didn't realize that was a thing, and
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to start painting eggs and selling them, and
Yeah.
the next thing you know, it's like they're on the news for the most successful egg painting company in the
And that's pretty
Northeast.
weird, but I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. We're meeting for coffee
You-
to paint eggs now.
Yeah,
We-
exactly.
And there's
We-
more than just me.
We all, and I think it's a byproduct of social media,
Yeah.
is to see these successful people in whatever industry, niche, whatever, and you're like, well, my life is not as interesting as them. I could
Yeah,
never
true.
be this. And
Yeah.
so, like, with your weird thought, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, no, this is not $1 million idea. This can be nothing. So I'm just gonna die with it
Yeah,
in my
I'm gonna
head.
harbor it.
No, like, share it,
Yeah.
because seriously, here's the really cool thing about social media, YouTube, all these platforms. If an audience exists, it'll find it. Like, the platform will find those people for you.
yeah.
And so, like, yeah, you're going to be in the same circles with other people who like painting eggs.
Yeah.
Someone,
There
you
could
are
be an
probably
underground.
not the only person. There are over 8 billion people on this planet
Dude,
right now,
you
right?
can name something, I guarantee you there's
There is certainly
thousands of people into it.
So
certainly an
don't.
underground egg painting society.
we
yeah,
are
for sure.
we are creative people by design. Like, that is buried in us
We say that a lot
for a
because
reason.
It's true.
And so, yeah, like, share it.
Yeah.
Yeah, share
Share it.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. All your weird hobbies and things that you're into.
Don't share straws. You can get sick from that. But
Ooh, that's a good point.
I need to stop doing that.
yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Well,
Well-
for instance, like the whole sharing thing, like I said that and didn't really think about it in this aspect. Like, I'm a huge NASA fan and
Yeah.
big into Adam Savage, like I said, and these NASA jackets. And Adam Savage had this NASA jacket on, and
Which is another facet of you that we've not even talked about today.
True.
Your lunar replica project.
That's a whole nother episode.
That's a whole nother
that's
episode.
probably in a whole nother episode. But yeah, how I got into lunar replicas is I'll leave a little teaser there. Is
Ooh.
because I decided to share the fact and do a unboxing video of a jacket I'd ordered from them because it meant so much to me because I'd searched for this jacket for years and years and years.
Yep.
And kind of obsessed over it, and I finally got one. I was like, I want to capture this moment. It was.
Yep.
I didn't think of it. It was really just for myself to upload to my YouTube video because I didn't have literally any followers. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
it was really just to put it up there, document what this happened, and where all that has led. So
You never know.
you never know.
I mean, had you had the fears and listened to the fears and the reservations and been like, you know what, I'm just going to open this thing.
Yep.
No need to document it.
Don't want to
whatever
watch
your
myself
motivations
open
were,
it
whatever.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Had you never done that, maybe you're nowhere near where you are right now with Lunar Replicas. You know, there's so
sure.
many things of
Yeah.
like, just do it.
Yeah.
I mean, just do it.
I'll say this. Consider me teased. We've got to get an episode of lunar replica.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can.
There's a lot to dive in there.
I'm going to have to educate myself, though, because I'm pretty weak in the space of space.
Ooh.
If you really want to get an earful, go ahead and set aside about 3 hours for the podcast, and we can get Max on here.
Oh my gosh.
And he's the owner of Lunar Replicas.
Oh my goodness.
You're
wow.
talking about just a
Wealth of
the
knowledge.
wealth of knowledge this guy has is just absolutely truly incredible.
Yeah.
Is Max the Smithsonian guy?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Probably a wealth of information.
Definitely need 3
his
hours
histories. Yeah. And then we can also brush up on, of course, Emily may do it. She's doing a podcast, I think, with you guys at some point
Yeah.
in the near future.
Love to get her on
So,
here.
yeah.
Would
And
love to have her come by.
Yeah. We'll see if we can get her to swing into the
She is
studio
pretty
here.
busy, though.
She's pretty busy.
Yeah, she is. But we can touch on the sewing stuff, like the cosplay, and her teaching me how to. I'd always been exposed to sewing from my mother, but she taught me how to actually sew, and that led to us making a pretty darn accurate, screen accurate Mandalorian costume. So
Wow.
Just sweet sewing love.
Oof.
we are so in love.
Oh my goodness.
On that note,
Jared, our audience has a few things that they can do, especially if they love that line right there.
Yeah.
That's good grief.
if they are
That was
so
beautiful.
in love with us, or possibly so not in love
If
with
you hate
us,
us, if we're ugly and we sound stupid, let us know.
let us
Pull out
know.
that same ripper.
Can we say the S word? No, this isn't radio. We can say the S word. Yeah. If we sound stupid, let us know.
Ooh, your son might not like that. But yeah, if you have any thoughts on us, good or bad, let us know. Leave us a review. Give us some sort of rating.
Give us some stars and bars.
Stars and bars. That's what Garrett likes to say.
This is America.
This is America.
We love it.
Let us know if any of this resonated with you. We are going to link all of Brandon's socials and the ways that you can get in touch with him and his the whole world of forging.
And Jason Lau. We mentioned Jason Lau as well.
Yeah. So we'll put them in the description. Be sure to reach out to them if something that he said resonated with you. I'm telling you, we've videoed those classes. Like, I really want to do a class.
Yeah.
Still
it's
need to
fun.
do a class. We've been talking about that. Just need to do it.
Yeah, we just got to set aside some time because obviously new time is not going to be created. We've got to block it.
Yeah. Just got to do
We
it.
got to block it. And if you're looking for a beautiful kitchen set for
yes.
your lover dover honey boo pie for Christmas, New Year's, Valentine's
Day,
whatever,
Get me up.
yeah, hit Brandon up. The
Yeah.
Franklin Forge. Get yourself a knife.
Yeah. He's been
Be
forced
careful,
in
they're
his ire.
sharp. Be careful, they're sharp.
They are sharp. Got quite a tip.
Jared, here's the hard part.
Yeah.
I think you're just going to say it.
Say what?
Well, actually, before, thank you again for
Thank you.
agreeing
Very welcome.
to
Thank you
come
for the
on to the
opportunity.
episode.
Gracias.
Here on Faith and Frames. Again, still boggles my mind that people want to be on this show.
Yep.
But we certainly appreciate it. You make us seem more intelligent than we are.
Yeah.
Actually, we're just smart for having you here. Anyways.
Bingo.
Jared, just tell me bye because I can't say it. It's hard.
All right. See you, dude.
All right. We'll see you guys later. Brandon, we'll see you later.
Bye.
Smell you later.
Peace.
Peace. Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.